Hello, I am a fan of a band called the Beatles. I have a poster of them here. But everyone is a fan of the Beatles, really. What's your favourite Beatles song?
Blackbird.
What's your favourite Beatles song?
I don't know.
Pressure's on.
Help? Okay, right. They are one of my favourite bands, so I was really pleased when I got the chance to go to Liverpool to see the places where they grew up and see their inspiration for their music. I think that's one of the most interesting things. Not only the music that they created, but what inspired them and how it inspired them. So basically, we went to Liverpool recently. On the first day, didn't really have time to do anything specifically related to the Beatles, but we went to the Anglican Cathedral, which is the largest cathedral in Britain. It's the 5th largest in the world. It started to be built in 1904 and it's finished in 1978. And the connection that it does have to the Beatles is that 11-year-old Paul McCartney, where is he? Paul McCartney auditioned to be part of the cathedral choir, but was turned down.
Fancy telling Paul McCartney your voice isn't good enough.
There you go. You've got instructions. Too close to the kitchen. The wheel.
Wheel? We also had a little walk around Liverpool, saw a place called Albert Dock. It's like this little pretty area with loads of restaurants and stuff. Did a ferry across the Mersey.
Raindrop. Snowdrop.
And then we got on to doing the actual stuff we came for, which is the stuff related to the Beatles. We went on this tour called the Magical Mystery Tour, named after one of the Beatles albums, and it was basically a bus. Yeah, it was basically a bus. Got on the bus and there was a tour guide called Tony.
Yeah, welcome to Liverpool, our World Heritage City. My name's Tony, by the way. I'm going to be your guide for the next 2 hours and thereabouts.
Shout out to Tony, he was a funny guy.
We're not in Europe. Or are we in Europe? Are we not in Europe? Are we in Europe? Has anyone got a clue anymore what's going on in this country? I don't think we have.
And he basically told us all about the Beatles' connection to Liverpool. We saw some of the classic Victorian terrace houses that Liverpool has. Apparently the local authority wanted to knock them down, but the government saved them. The reason we came here was because Ringo was born in that area. He spent 18 years in that house. He went to a school nearby, and we were also told that Ringo was actually a very sick child. Spent 2.5 years of his life in hospital when he was younger, and then a further 2 years during high school. We also, of course, went to Penny Lane, which is one of the main reasons I came. Penny Lane is a song by the Beatles. It's written about an area called Penny Lane, and in the song it mentions the shelter in the middle of the roundabout. We saw the shelter in the middle of the roundabout. We also saw the barber shop, and we saw the bank, which is also mentioned in the song. John was the person who lived closest to Penny Lane. I think only up until he was about 5 years old. That house was put on auction. Yoko Ono bought it for £500,000. We went to George Harrison's old house in Arnold Grove. Arnold Grove is the name that George Harrison used when he was checking into a hotel. He lived in a 2-bedroom house, and there were 6 people living in that house, so it was quite crowded. We also went to have a look at Paul McCartney's family house. He moved there in 1955. We also, of course, went to Strawberry Fields, which is the place which inspired one of their songs called Strawberry Fields. It was an orphanage for girls in 1935 and remained a children's care home until 2005. John used to climb the walls and climb the trees with his friends, and his aunt would always say to him, "If they catch you, John Lennon, they're gonna hang you," and he would reply, There's nothing to get hung about, which is actually a lyric in the song. And that's where it comes from. John Lennon lived with his aunt from when he was 5 years old. He used to live with his mum and his dad. His dad went away to war and after 2 years stopped writing letters. So John Lennon's mum didn't really know what happened, and she had an affair and had a child. That child was taken away from her and raised in Norway. Then John Lennon's mum had another affair, and it was decided that it would be best if John went to go and live with his aunt instead of his mum. Started having more contact with his mum after he reached 9 years old. His aunt taught him ukulele and banjo. When John Lennon made his first track, she said to him, "You're going to be bigger than Elvis." But unfortunately, she died 3 days later. She was hit by a car. And lastly, the bus dropped us off at the Cavern Club, which is a place where the Beatles have played something like 200 times, which is crazy. It was amazing to be down there. Many music artists still perform in the Cavern Club, and it's seen as like an important thing. We also went to the Beatles museums. They have lots of Beatles memorabilia in there and photographs. It was really interesting to look around. What was also interesting about the museums was that the Beatles in the present day, what they're doing now, what they did after the Beatles split up. So that basically concludes the video about the Beatles in Liverpool. I had a really good time when I was there, and I just found it really interesting actually. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.